Well, good morning all, and thank you for attending this One Spatial webinar. My name's David Eagle. This webinar is going to cover 5 hot features that you might have missed in the recent FME 2017 release. What we're going to get into is a little bit of the detail there. But first of all, just a little bit of a summary of what's happened in recent months. Those of you who've been watching the sort of press and marketing around the product launch know that early in the year, and in fact also late last year, there was a release candidate, an RC build of FME 2017 launched to market for people to use and get familiar with. Though the official .0 release was launched in March. So that's the FME 2017 build for both FME Desktop and Server, and in fact also FME Cloud, if that's something that you've had involvement with. So it's been around since March, and you can see there's a couple of links here. Well, if you go to safe.com/downloads, then you can go and find the current build of FME. But the other thing that you can also get hold of on that page is a list of all the things that have changed in the build. So if you want to go into the minute detail of what has changed, what's been added, what has been updated or fixed, then you can see that all in the What's New file, and that's available from the downloads site. So that is on the core website, and I will just locate it so that you can see that. But there you go, safe.com/downloads. And in order to get to that text file, you need to choose one of these two options here to select the individual What's New file. So that's a bit of a tip for you to see what changes have happened. As equivalent one for FME Server as well. And also on Safe's website, they have done a series of webinars. Safe.com/webinars will take you to that location, and you'll notice if you haven't attended them, that there are a couple of deep dive webinars that have been recorded and in the early part of the year and are available to review if you want to see some of the detail. But we don't like to try and overly repeat what Safe put to market. We want to add a little bit of value to that. We're going to pick and choose some of the things that might have slipped under the radar for you in terms of capability, and try and highlight a couple of things that we think are important that you may have missed. So that's the plan for this session. So just drop off the slides for a moment, and we're going to go straight into some demonstrations. So the first thing that I'd like to show you is website scraping, effectively. So getting data and information from websites is a very common requirement that we're finding. And I'm not actually talking here about getting data from APIs. I'm talking about actually going to a web page and pulling content dynamically from that location. Now, I've shown this kind of thing in webinars in the past. This is an example of a workspace that actually goes and reads radio station playlists. Well, that sounds like a bit of an obscure use case, and granted it is, but let's just go on look into the detail a little bit. So if we just dive out to a web page, there is, for example, a radio station here. This is a local radio station in Yorkshire, and you can see that they have an option to look at music played. And you can see in here that they will tell you what songs are being played on a particular day, and you can actually play around with the URL to go and get tracks from a particular day. So you can see that you can go back to the 1st of May, and the URL changes to indicate that. And you can also see that you can come up to here, and if you wanted to, you could say, well, go back a whole year and tell us what tracks were played a year ago. So that is sort of interesting, perhaps not in the context of a radio station, but where this gets exciting is that a lot of websites, a lot of data providers have content on web pages that you may want to dynamically go and get. You might want to go and get a different link to a data set that's being supplied, perhaps on open data, data.gov.uk. There's a number of different ways that this might be useful. And this is the workspace that did it before, and effectively what that gave us was the content of the web page, but actually we parsed, by running one workspace, we parsed about 1,600 web pages in a handful of minutes to understand for the whole year who was the most played artist. In this case, Take That were pretty popular in 2011 on this Yorkshire local radio station. So we could come up with some aggregated statistics, and this is a kind of detail that you could then feed into some dashboarding tool, perhaps to allow you to understand what's going on in a particular area geographically, or perhaps see a bit more detail about the data, the information you're trying to get hold of. But the point I want to get to is that there is now a new reader in FME 2017. It's called the HTML table reader, and it gives us a lot more capability than we've had before, because we can go and get tabular content directly from the end of a URL. So here's the same site. Effectively, a significant portion of the front of the original workspace that I wrote is now not necessary, because we can effectively just go direct to the data. Here on the recent tracks URL, we have the ability to go and find out if there are any interesting tables in there. There is one that I know has our radio station playlist stored in it. It's table 1. So I can go and use that as my reader, drop it down. I've got a couple of columns of information in there, and if I just pop an inspector into here straight away and just run that, we can see that we can go and pop open the FME data inspector, and the tabular content now tells us that on the 4th of May we have a timestamp of 11:07, and there's the track. Good old Ed Sheeran up at the top there. So we can get right into the detail of the content from that site. Now, a lot of information, whether it's perhaps physical location of assets, whether it's vehicle tracking information, whether it's tabular content that's being published, whether it's meeting dates, this kind of thing finds itself onto intranet and to internet sites, and getting hold of that information automatically, perhaps overnight, is something that can be very handy. If we go to something subtly different, here's all of the FME training that's going on globally, whether it's online or in person. If we go and actually go and grab the URL at the top, I just want the training one here, and go and add in a reader. Here, my HTML table reader again. Go to the training page, and this time see what information is available. And here I want the overall table. And what I'll do when I pop this in as the reader is zoom in a little bit, and if I just pop an inspector in play, and I'm also going to put a tester in here because I'd like to filter out non-UK training courses. So if we say that we want to go for attribute contains the word OneSpatial. Okay, so then if we run it, we can see that globally, there are 41 published training courses. 9 of them are being supplied by ourselves. And you can see here that we've got some introductory, some advanced, some FME server training, all going on different dates throughout the year, and also in different cities in both the UK and Australia. So that information now is available for us to put into a spreadsheet, for us to send as a notification via email if this were running on a schedule, all kinds of triggers and an automatic setup that we could envisage building into this workflow now by being able to get to dynamic content on a web page. So that's the first hot feature that we wanted to cover. Moving on to number 2. Number 2 focuses on performance. At our FME World Tour events this year, we had a dedicated session around some of the performance enhancements, and this is something that we are going to repeat a little bit over and above what we've talked about in the past. But because it is so important, we've felt it's worthy of another mention. And what the focus there is around the performance capabilities of some of the formats that are available in FME to consume content. So I'm going to open up an older version of FME Desktop. This is FME 2016.1. That's just going to launch. Here we have the Workbench application. And I'm going to go into the main canvas, and I want to add a new reader. And I'm going to add in a CSV reader. And I have a little bit of data that is tucked away, so I'm just going to drag that in. But you can see that effectively I've got a US and a GB CSV. It has some content in it. Let's go and have a look at what the kind of content is in there. You can see this is effectively place name information. So lots of data in there, lots of different place names. We can see the schema that we've structured. It's a comma separated file, so that's how we're going to read it in. I'm going to add in an individual feature type for the format, and I'm going to just put a logger. So I'm not really interested in looking at the data. I'm interested in looking at the performance of how this process, how this data is consumed into the workflow. So let's just run it as is, and we're going to let that trickle its way through. So you can see that the data comes in pretty quickly. You can see the dynamic record count indicating the number of features that have been read. Whilst that's happening, though, I'm going to open up FME 2017. So we'll leave that happening in the background. I'm just going to go and do the same thing in here. So I'm going to go in and add a reader. I'm going to add in a CSV reader. And I'm going to bring in the same 2 files from the same location, and that's important in terms of a detail. You can see that we've got a subtly different layout to the one we saw a moment ago. It's a little bit better organized. There's a few other settings in here. That's not something we're going to spend too much time on. What we are going to focus our attention on is the performance of the read, because you can see in the background the one that's still running. I'm going to just run this one as well in FME 2017, and hopefully we should see a bit of a performance difference. So the one in the background I think is getting close to its conclusion, but you can see that the one in the foreground, FME 2017, rattled its way through even quicker. So we've got there a 10.6 second process time. So reading in 2 million records in 10 seconds instead of over a minute is a bit of a big deal there. I have obviously only read the data. I haven't done anything with it significantly. I've sent it straight to the log, or sent a handful of records to the log. But it's the performance benefit that we can see. Now, one thing you might notice is that this has a suffix after the reader. It's a CSV reader 2. So the story is that at the moment a handful of formats have got this turbocharge, a couple of them being CSV, and another one being a format called MapInfo Extended, which I'll show you in a moment. Those are under the bonnet using a technology called feature tables. Feature table, it's really an internal name that SAFE have referred to it as, but what that means is that the individual features, where they're coming from the same data set, they don't necessarily need to carry along with them their entire schema description. So that isn't being done anymore, whereas historically it has. It means that you have a much more efficient process with much lighter features being able to able to be read into the process, and it means that as a result of a lot of work that SAFE have done around their point cloud technology, we're going to benefit now with this performance effort on a number of different formats, not just these two that I've just mentioned. Let's just go and have a look at, so we're in 2017.1, it's the beta at the moment. Actually, that's not relevant to what I've been showing you. This is all available in the official 2017 release, but if we just go and have a look at a pre-canned workspace here, this is the MapInfo format. Same deal here. We have two MapInfo readers. One is the MapInfo tab reader, one is the MapInfo tab extended format. This format was introduced in MapInfo version 15.2, and it allows you to create MapInfo tab files with over 2 gigabytes of file size. So you're not no longer limited by the old DBase file structure, which is a good thing. The benefit is that we can now read and use this MapInfo tab extended to read that new format. But the lesser known fact is that we can use the extended MapInfo extended reader to read old MapInfo tab files, and we can do that faster. So what you can see here is a couple of MapInfo tab files that are stored on my local disk. I'm going to read them in and send them to the logger. This is using the old MapInfo tab reader. You can see that listed up here, MapInfo. So you can see that making its way through. It's finished. It's had a lot less data in it. Ran in 5.9 seconds. If I just dive up to here and disable and enable the MapInfo extended side of things and rerun that, we can see that this data comes into the process significantly faster in a big lump, under 2-second processing in order to read that content. So this is a big deal. We're not going to see the benefits of this immediately, but for some workspaces this is going to have a big impact, and we can see that SAFE are thinking very hard about efficiency of data, reading, processing and writing, to keep up with the market trend of doing things better and faster. So this is a really something that we think is definitely worthy of a hot tip. Whilst we're here though, the third hot tip that we're going to be looking at is very closely related to this capability. What I want to do is just go back to the process that had the CSV in it. So here's the workspace. This is a workspace that was authored in FME 2016. I've just opened the old FMW file in the latest FME, and I'm going to run it. And what you'll see is that we have the old functionality. So if you author a process in FME 2016, you will get the latest reader, the latest reader capability as existed in the old version of FME. When I open up the workspace in the new version, I'm getting the same capability. So we can see that that's already taken 25 seconds to read that through. I'm going to stop the process. This hot tip is brand new to the beta. It is very much a first iteration, so it is not quite up to standard. It's not quite what Safe are looking to achieve. But let's go and have a look at where this came from. If you're familiar with the FME community, the user community, you'll be well aware that on the Knowledge Center, the site where you can go and find out details about what's going on with FME and find helpful articles, there is also a section called the Ideas page. So you can come into here and you can actually go in and you can create or post an idea of something that you want to have in FME. And something that myself and a number of individuals in the community have been asking for is to get some visibility over the versioning of readers and writers. Just like we got into the software last year with the versioning around transformers. So transformer versioning is a thing. I'll touch on that in a little while. The ideas page is great because you can post your idea, comment on it, build a business case, and get feedback right from the people at Safe who have identified here that it is a logged request and that now something's happened and it's available in the beta. So Dale Lutz, one of the co-owners of Safe Software, here chiming in that we now have a first hit of this functionality in the beta. So let's go and see what that means. Well, it means that I can right click and I can update this reader. I can go and change it to the latest one. It is now, as you see there, CSV2. You see that increment, and now when I run it, what I would expect to see is a better performance. Here now the data comes in that more performant lump of data into the process, super fast compared to how it was being consumed with the old reader. So that's a little bit around the latest beta and the ability to update readers. So hot tip number 4 is all about lists. Lists are perhaps a little bit of a more involved topic. Probably I would class them as an advanced topic, but they are a very necessary and very capable bit of functionality that you will more than likely stumble into quite quickly with any development language. If you're a developer, software developer, you may know the term list as actually referred to as an array. It's a way of building an involved, a built-up feature that has multiple attributes, multiple bits of detail, luggage, if you like, carried along with an individual feature. And I want to demonstrate what I mean by this, but first of all I need to start with a starting workspace to see what the capabilities are. This is a little bit of Ordnance Survey sample data. This is code point with polygons. So I have myself here a MIF-MID file. Let's just go and have a look at that data set. And you can see a series of polygons. These are postcode sectors, or actually, beg your pardon, these are full postcode boundaries. We can see in here that each one of these is a postcode boundary, and they are a member of a postcode area. There are also, and this is a subtlety, but there are also lots of little squares in here. These little squares are referred to as vertical streets, and they don't have a postcode, they have a lookup code, because effectively this is more than likely a large building, perhaps a tower block, that on different levels has different postcodes. So what we need to go and do is look up that information, and code point with polygons is supplied with a lookup file, and effectively that's what we're doing here. We test to see if the postcode begins with a V. If it does, it goes to the new FME 2017 database joiner, and it goes to the lookup text file that you can see over here, and effectively it does a one-to-many join to go and get back all of the postcodes for each floor in the tower block, for example. Over in the attribute manager, we're going to rename the postcode to a vertical lookup for the sake of this these records. We're going to set column 0 to a postcode. That's what we've joined on. We need to know how many vertical street members there are, so how many postcodes there are in a tower block. That's what we're going to achieve here. This matched records field is something that database joiner gives us. And then we won't do anything to the other two attributes, and we'll just run that as is. So let's just fire that through and see what we get. Okay, so there clearly are some vertical street records. You can see a count, 283 of those little squares went and did a join. So let's go down and have a look at some of those. There's a vertical street reference. It has got its own postcode there, and you can see that there are a number of, in fact, there we go, 3 identical vertical street references. 3 different postcodes. The vertical street members, there are 3. That's why I knew how to look for the 3 codes. So those at this location here, there are 3 postcodes in that building. So all well and good, but what's this got to do with lists, you might ask? Well, let's say we wanted to go and get the postcode district. To do that, we would need a substring extractor. There's a few options. There's a more robust way of doing this, but I'm going to just do it with a substring extractor. I'm going to go to the postcode field, and I want to go and get from 0 the first part of this postcode string to 2, and I'm going to put that into a field called PC postcode dist. So the postcode district, and I want to run that just to see what we get out of it. And now we have the first part of the postcode district, because we may want to combine up to build the postcode hierarchy and build up our postcode districts and our postcode area boundaries, rather than just having the full postcode boundary. So there we've got our postcodes. I've managed to extract the, in this case, the district. So now what I want to do is go and dissolve out the boundaries. I'll use the dissolver. The dissolver in FME 2017 has had a few changes, notably a little bit of a performance kick in its capabilities as well. But what you can see is that where transformers now have the ability to create an array, a list, you can see that there is a little bit more capability than there was historically. One of the key things here is the ability to select the attributes that join into the list. Now, I sometimes use in training the analogy of an individual with a rucksack walking up a hill, carrying a bag full of things that they want to take on the hike with them. But in that rucksack, if they take with them things that they are not going to use on the walk, it is just more effort than it needs to be. So it's much more sensible to leave those things at home. Now, in FME 2016, effectively you had the option to add all attributes into your list. So let me just show you what that means. In here, let's go and create my underscore postcode members list. Okay, so when I join these postcode districts together, what I don't want to do is lose an understanding of which postcodes made up each district. So I want to pop all of those postcodes into a list. So let's build that list, dissolve out the boundaries, and I will just show you the before as well. So this is the postcode boundaries beforehand. So let's just run that now. Okay, so we got 4,176, 4,468 boundaries, and it's going to dissolve out each of the individual postcode districts, hopefully. So let's just turn all of those off, and I believe that I have, of course, not grouped by anything at all. So this is a demo. Things go wrong. I need to actually select a group by. I'm going to use the postcode district that we specified and run that again. The perils of a live demo. There we go. That's much better. Okay, so 24 postcode districts in play here. Turn all of them off. There we go. Okay, so now you can see that for the postcode district EX6, it comprises of that geography, but you can see that there is a list feature, and the first one suggests that all of those attributes have been joined into the list. And if I wanted to find out which was the postcode that's being referred to, well, it's in here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so there's the postcode. So that postcode there is one that makes up that boundary, and we also have another one in there. There it is. But we have all of this extraneous detail that we don't need, including these format attributes in this list, that we can actually now not include in the first place. So we can only choose selected attributes, and we will just include the postcode, and we'll run that. And what the intention is that not only will this go faster when we start doing other things to the process and carrying those features through the rest of the workflow, but we will impact the peak memory usage, and ideally that's going to mean that this process is on the whole going to be more performant and more scalable in the future as our data needs change. Here you can see that what we should have is, for the same boundary, now only the postcode that we care about. And if we look through here, we can see that there are quite a few, in this case 108, because FME starts counting at 0, and 108 members of that postcode district. So now we could use our list dedicated transformer. We have a list element counter, and what that will do for us is allow us to work out how many PC members there are, and if we run it, that will count all of those individual members that are in each one of the districts and give us a sum for each one. So lists are very powerful. They are now significantly more performant than they ever were before, just because of the ability to be able to control what goes into a list. I admit this is more advanced capability, but it is a bit of a big deal. So that's why we're making a little bit of a fuss about it. Okay, so there is hot tip number 4. So where we're going to conclude, well, hot tip number 5 is the geometry validator. So for this purpose, I have a little pre-canned process, and I'm going to bring in a workspace called issue locations. So just touching on the versioning topic again that I mentioned a moment ago, what I mean by that in this case is around the transformer versioning. This is an old transformer copied into the workspace from an earlier FME. You can see that this is, as you can see at the top there, version 3 of the transformer, but the latest version is version 4. if I hover my cursor over this one here, that is a version 4. You can see the difference. For a start, there are 3 ports. Over here, there's just 4. In FME 2016, we got the ability to look and get to see some of these upgradable transformers. We can find out, for example, what the difference is, what's changed in these transformers. So I could go and have a look at the details and see what's changed. We've added the issue locations port for identify locations that are issues, and we've got a few other bits and pieces in there. If we want to actually go and upgrade this transformer, we can do that, and it will give you a corresponding dialog to show you the difference between the dialog and perhaps any changes you need to make. Really, the focus here is on the functionality behind the scenes rather than the functionality that you can influence in terms of the ports, the exit ports that we've got. And the big deal, really, not to spend too much time on this, but the big deal is this issue locations port. Previously, it was quite difficult to. It's absolutely possible, but it was more difficult. You had to have a series of transformers to go and work out when you had some failures, some geometry failures, where those locations were, and you had to deal with parsing lists. Well, no more. Here's a data set, building land property units. If I run that through the new geometry validator, I can set this up so that it will consume the data. I've set it up reading using that new MapInfo extended reader, so it's nice and fast to bring the data directly into the workflow. It'll identify all the problems in that data set, and it'll show me those as points over the top of the location where the problem is. And it will also have some additional details, so telling you how many of a particular problem there is at a location and what type of problem it is. So here we've got our green BLPUs, and we have some red spots on the map. Let's go over to this little cluster over here. Those red spots, if we just go in, turn my building and the property units off. So here, if I click on that problem there, you can see that there are some duplicate consecutive points in 3D, and there is a self-intersection on that at that location on that polygon ID. So it allows us to do some data cleanse, or probably more likely send that data back to the owner and ask them to take a look at it. If we go and look at the polygon 2274, which we just need to identify which one it is, and going to tell us, there we go, it's not that one, so it must be this one. There must be a bigger one underneath there somewhere, which means that it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. So let's just go and change the colour here. And I'll spot another one just to see if that's more helpful. Okay, so that's polygon 2352, which is that one there. And then the point of this was that there are 2 duplicate points at that location. So if we have a look, there they are. So that was easier than I thought, but you can see that right at that location, just there, we can go into the coordinate detail and see that there are 2 identical full precision XY points. So someone has just double clicked at that location by mistake. So we can thin out the detail of a significant number of the geometry data that we have stored here, and hopefully make the file size a little bit smaller by dealing with that new function. So hot tip number 5 brings us to the end, or does it? Well, okay, so we've thrown in a number 6. It's a bonus. And it's sort of a bit like those items at the end of the news that show you that little good news story, or that quirky bit of fun that lives in this case in a piece of software. Well, whether it's quirky, whether it's fun, is for you to decide. But what I want to highlight is the auto layout feature. Auto layout has been an interesting requirement, capability, demand of the FME user base over the years. It has existed in the past, the ability to take a workspace that looks a little bit like this, push a button and hopefully make it a bit prettier, lay it out a bit more easily to allow you to see it. That functionality did exist a few versions ago. It was taken away. It was taken away because some people really felt it did more damage than good, and that was, to be fair, true. But there is a new iteration of the auto layout function. There is a number of auto layout style buttons up on the toolbar. If you right click on any of these active buttons, you can go in and customize your toolbar and drag in any of these alignment tools to help you line up your transformers. It's always best to sort of do a multi-select before you go and choose one of these buttons to line them up. You can see if I just sort of nudge this one out of the way, focus your attention on a particular set of transformers to tidy them up. And that can be helpful. When you're lining transformers up as well, it's always handy to keep them far enough apart so that you can see the number in the middle of the connection link. But if you go and customize your toolbar, you can go and add in that one there, which is the one I just hovered over. That's the auto layout. And you can see that if I just push auto layout, it does a reasonable job of giving us an automatic spread of transformers so that they are easy to see, hopefully not too crossed over, and a little bit easier for you to step your way through and start adding some documentation to your workspace. The big argument about the way that the software previously worked with more involved workspaces was that absolutely it could do more damage than good, and this is actually a very well designed and prepped workspace with lots of bookmarks and annotations. But I just, normally this would be absolutely fine. You wouldn't really consider applying auto layout to this, but I want to show you that actually, if you do apply an auto layout to a workspace of this kind of lookout, well, does it do any damage? Well, not really. It sort of does a pretty good job of laying out the linear structure of the process and allowing you to have a good spread of transformers so that you can see what's going on, and it deals with bookmarks quite nicely, and it maintains that relationship. So really it's a bit of a throwaway item at the end of the webinar, just to give you a bit of a tip about a feature that wasn't really talked about too much at the World Tour events and some of the previous webinars. But that's the auto layout feature. Love it or hate it, it now exists in a new form. It's likely it will go through more revisions in future, but it is a regularly requested feature in FME training, so I wanted to drop that in at the end. So we're going to draw this webinar to a close. I'd like to thank you all for attending very much. A few things just to be aware of. There's of course SAFE's website and our own, where you can go and find out a little bit more details about the things that we do working with the FME product, the training that we offer, the other webinars in the series that you can sign up to on our events page. If you go to our YouTube channel or SAFE's, there are a huge amount of resources available. So ours is One Spatial Group, SAFE's is the FME channel. We have an FME playlist dedicated with historic webinars stored up there that you can go and take a look at, and this one will feature on that site very soon. If you're a member of the Twitterati and you want to follow us, then you're more than welcome. There's a couple of Twitter handles to go and follow. to catch up with what we're up to. But for now, I really would just like to say thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you on one of the webinars later on in the year. Thank you very much.